I need to start by telling you something honest, something I don't usually say out loud even now. Even after everything that happened, I used to believe I was broken, not in the dramatic way that people say it when they want attention. Not in the way that makes for a good Instagram caption. I mean broken in the quiet, ordinary, Tuesday afternoon kind of way. The kind where you sit across from your friends while they talk about the person they're dating. And you smile and nod and ask the right questions. And inside you're thinking, I don't think. I'm built for this. My name is Maya. I was 26 years old when I met Serena. I was living in a one-bedroom apartment in Portland, Oregon, with a secondhand couch I loved too much. A collection of houseplants I had named after literary characters. And a very strong opinion about the correct way to make coffee. I worked as a graphic designer for a mid-sized marketing agency, the kind of place where everyone is perpetually exhausted but pretends to be passionate. I had been out as a lesbian since I was 19, which sounds like a long time until you realize that being out doesn't automatically mean you know how to love someone, or how to let someone love you back. I had dated. Of course I had dated. There was Jess, my college girlfriend, who was beautiful and emotionally unavailable in equal measure. There was Dana, who was warm and generous and laughed at everything I said, and whom I had ended things with after 8 months because something was missing and I didn't know how to name what it was. There was a brief, confusing situation with a woman named Prey who was getting over someone else, and I was, in retrospect, a placeholder which I should have seen coming in DIDN single quotes T. after Priya. I stopped actively trying. Not in a sad way. That's what I told myself anyway. I stopped trying in the way that felt clean and rational. I was focusing on my career. I was getting to know myself. I was building a life I was proud of. I went to therapy. I exercised occasionally. I kept the plants alive. I told anyone who asked that I was in a really good place. And mostly I believed it. The truth, which I have only recently become comfortable saying, is that I was lonely in the way that becomes invisible when it goes on long enough. You stop noticing the shape of it. It just becomes the background of your life, and then Serena walked into a coffee shop on a Wednesday morning in late October, sat down at the table next to mine, opened her laptop, and said, without looking up, "Is your music loud enough, or should I just give up on existing?" I was wearing headphones. I thought they were noise canceling. Apparently, at the volume I had them set, they were broadcasting. I pulled them off. I stared at her. She was looking at her screen. Dark hair pulled back in a messy bun. The kind that looks effortless and probably takes zero effort because some people are just like that. She was wearing a gray sweater that looked extremely soft. She had a small scar above her left eyebrow that I would only learn the story of much later. She had not yet looked at me. "Sorry," I said. "It's fine," she said. "I'm just being difficult." "You're being honest," I said. I had no idea it was that loud. She looked up then. Dark eyes, unimpressed expression. The particular energy of someone who finds the world mildly annoying but has made peace with it. "I'm Maya," I said, which was a strange thing to say to a stranger in a coffee shop. But I said it anyway. She looked at me for a moment. "Serena," she said, and then she looked back at her screen. That was it. That was the whole interaction. I put my headphones back on at a lower volume and told myself it didn't mean anything. She was just a woman in a coffee shop. Portland is full of women in coffee shops. I went back to working on a logo redesign for a dental office, and I did not think about her, except I did think about her. A little, just the way you think about a song you can't quite place. I'm a creature of habit. This is both one of my best qualities and one of my most limiting ones. I go to the same coffee shop every Wednesday morning because the light is good by the window. The music is not aggressively trendy. And they make an oat milk latte that I have decided is the best thing available to me on a Wednesday at 8:30 in the morning. The following Wednesday, she was there again. Same table. Same gray sweater or a different gray sweater, hard to tell. Same focused expression aimed at her laptop. I hesitated at the door in a way that was probably visible and embarrassing. Then I went in, ordered my latte, and sat at my usual table, which happened to be next to hers. She glanced up when I sat down. "No headphones today," she observed. "I learned my lesson," I said. "The lesson being that you exist in shared space with other people?" "The lesson being that my music taste is not universally beloved." Something shifted in her expression. Not quite a smile. The suggestion of one. What were you listening to? She asked. Mitski, I said. HM, she said. Is that a good HM or a bad HM? It's an informative HM, she said, and went back to her scream. I worked on a brand identity project for a new restaurant. She worked on whatever she was working on. The coffee shop did its coffee shop things around us. We did not speak again for another 40 minutes. At which point she closed her laptop, gathered her things, and stood up. See you next Wednesday, she said, without looking at me. I might not be here next Wednesday, I said immediately, which was a lie, and I don't know why I said it. She did look at me then, briefly. Okay, she said, in a tone that suggested she knew it was a lie but was not going to make it weird. She left. I sat there for a moment. Then I texted my best friend Kali. I think I just made an enemy in a coffee shop. Kali replied, how? I don't know. I think we might also be friends. Or something? I can't tell. Only you, Kali said. I went back to work. I did not think about Serena for the rest of the day. I thought about her a lot. She was there the following Wednesday. Of course she was. I was there too. Of course I was, over the next several weeks. I learned things about Serena, the way you learn things about someone when you share a table-adjacent space. Once a week, and neither of you is actively trying to become friends. She was a writer. Or rather, she was trying to finish being a writer. She had a novel she'd been working on for 3 years. And she came to the coffee shop every Wednesday morning because it was the one time in her week when she let herself pretend that writing was her actual job rather than the thing she squeezed between. Her actual job, which was editing content for a tech company. She did not like being asked how the novel was going. I learned this on the 3rd Wednesday when I made the mistake of asking. Her expression went flat in a way that told me I had stepped on something. Fine, she said. That's the least convincing fine I've ever heard, I said. Then I'll try again. It's going where? She stared at me. I hate that question. I know. I hate that I asked it. I don't know why I said it. It came out. Another almost smile. I was beginning to catalog the different gradations of almost smile that Serena seemed to have in place of an actual smile. She told me about the novel eventually, not what it was about. Just the shape of it. She had been writing it for 3 years. And for 3 years she had been convinced it was terrible. And the only reason she hadn't abandoned it was that she was more stubborn than she was rational. That's not a bad reason, I said. It's not a good one, she said. No. But the best creative work usually gets finished for irrational reasons. Logic would tell you to stop every time it gets hard. She considered this. What do you do? She asked. The graphic design thing, right? You remembered, I said. I noticed things, she said. As if it were a neutral observation rather than the thing that sent a small, stupid flutter through my chest. I told her about the work I liked, the identity projects, the moments when you found exactly the right visual language for what a brand was trying to say. I told her about the work I didn't like, which was most of it. She listened without performing interest, which was more interesting than someone who performed it. You're not happy, she said at the end of this. I'm fine, I said. That was the least convincing fine I've ever heard, she said. I laughed. A real one surprised out of me. She watched me laugh with an expression that I could not entirely read. I'm working on it, I said. That's better than fine, she said and closed her laptop. Same time next week. It had become, without us naming it, a standing appointment. Thing about Serena that I think I need to explain, the thing that is central to everything that came after is that she was not cynical about love in the way that some people are cynical, which is to say, secretly hopeful and performing hardness as a defense. She was something more complicated than that. She had loved someone once. I learned this on a rainy Wednesday in November, when we had somehow migrated from adjacent tables to the same table and the coffee shop was unusually quiet. And we'd been talking for 2 hours without either of us noticing. Her name had been Rachel. They had been together for 2 years. And Serena had believed with the full weight of herself, with all the stubborn, complete conviction that was characteristic of her, that Rachel was the person she was going to build a life with. Rachel had not believed the same thing. Not because she was a bad person, Serena was careful to say she said this in the way of someone who has done a lot of work to arrive at a generous interpretation. Rachel just hadn't been able to give Serena what she needed, and instead of saying so, she had let it go on until the end became inevitable and painful in the particular way that endings are when they've been coming for a long time. How long ago? I asked. 2 years, Serena said. Almost exactly. And? And nothing, she said. I'm fine. You sound fine, I said. She looked at me. I am. I genuinely am. That's not the part that messed me up. Then what part did? She was quiet for a moment. Outside, the rain picked up against the windows. I was so certain, she said. That's the part. I was completely 100% certain, and I was wrong. And if I can be that certain and be that wrong, then... She shrugged. I don't trust my own certainty anymore. About that specific thing. I turned this over. So you've given up on it? I've given up on the idea that I know what I'm doing, she said. Which is different from giving up on it. I think. That's honest, I said. It's also very annoying, she said, which surprised me into laughing again. You don't have to have it figured out, I said. I know that. I'm just saying I used to think I did. And I like that feeling. And I miss it a little, even though it was based on a misunderstanding. She paused. Okay, that's enough about my tragic romantic history. It's not tragic, I said. It's not, she agreed. It's just ordinary. That might be worse. I didn't say anything to that. Because I knew what she meant, we sat there for a while in the comfortable silence that had, somewhere in the past weeks, quietly established itself between us. The kind of silence that doesn't ask anything of you. Kali had known me for 8 years. We had met in college, bonded over a shared hatred of a particular professor's grading system, and been inseparable in the intermittent adult friendship way ever since. She was a nurse, practical and perceptive in equal measure. And she had an infuriating habit of saying things about me but I was not ready to see about myself. I had been telling her about Serena for approximately 6 weeks at this point. I think you like her, Kali said. We were on the phone. I was making dinner and poorly. We're friends, I said. We're becoming friends. It's a friend situation. You've described her appearance to me 4 times, Kali said. The gray sweater has come up in 3 separate conversations. It's a notable sweater, Maya. Kali, when are you going to do something about this? There's nothing to do something about, I said. She's not interested in that. She told me about her ex. She basically said she's closed off from that stuff right now. People say that, Kali said. Some people mean it, I said. A pause. Do you like her? I stirred something in the pot. I don't know, I said. I genuinely don't know. She's interesting. She's really interesting. And she's funny in this way where she's not trying to be funny, it just comes out. And she notices things. Like real things. She pays attention. Those are not friend feelings, Kali said. They could be friend feelings. They could be. Are they? I didn't answer. Okay, Kali said. What happens if you tell her? I lose the Wednesday thing, I said immediately. I lose this thing we have, this thing that's really good and that I don't want to mess up. That's fear talking. Fear is also a valid input, I said. Fear is a valid input, Kali agreed. It doesn't get to make all the decisions, though. I put down the spoon. I don't know if I'm ready. For what? To like someone. For it to go wrong, I said. For it to be a whole thing and then to not work out and then to go back to the part where I was just living my life and it was fine. Kali was quiet for a moment. When she spoke, her voice was gentler. Maya, the part where you were just living your life and it was fine, you were lonely. You know that, right? I know that. And now you're describing someone who makes you laugh and pays attention to you and has become a regular appointment in your week. That doesn't sound lonely. No, I admitted. It doesn't, so, Kali said. So, I said. One step at a time, she said. It happened gradually and then suddenly. As things do. The gradually part, in late November. We had been at the coffee shop for 3 hours and neither of us wanted to leave. And I said, on impulse, do you want to just get dinner somewhere? And she said, without hesitating, yeah, okay. We went to a Thai place 2 blocks away. We stayed until they started putting chairs up. We talked about her novel and my dissatisfaction with my job and her opinion on the current state of literary fiction, complicated, and my relationship with my sister, also complicated, and whether Portland was a good city to live in. Her conclusion: the bar is low, but Portland clears it. She walked me to my street, not to my door. To my street, and we stood on the corner for a moment in the cold. This was good, she said. It was, I said. Same Wednesday? Same Wednesday, I said. She walked away. I stood on the corner for slightly too long and then went home and called Collie, who had somehow already anticipated the call. The Sunday part came in December. There was a work event. I had to attend one of those agency holiday parties that are mandatory in everything but name. I had been planning to go alone, endure it for 90 minutes, and leave. Then, on the Wednesday before the party, I mentioned it to Serena with the particular energy of someone complaining about an upcoming obligation. Could you bring someone? She asked. A +1 situation, yeah, I said. But I don't really have a +1. You could bring me, she said. I looked at her. I mean, if you need one, she said. I'm not busy Saturday. And you seem like you don't want to go alone, and going with a person is probably easier. It would be easier, I said carefully, so if you want. Do you want to? I asked. She thought about it with the genuine consideration she brought to most things. I don't particularly love agency holiday parties, she said. But I like talking to you and you'll be there, so the math works out. There was something in that. I like talking to you that I turned over quietly in my head and held there. Okay, I said. It's Saturday at 7. I'll need your address, she said. To pick me up? You're going to make me stand outside and text you when I'm there like a teenager? I wasn't going to suggest that specifically, but address, she said. And slid her phone across the table. I put my address in her phone and she put hers in mine. And neither of us acknowledged that we had somehow arrived at the place of having each other's addresses and phone numbers, which we had somehow not gotten around to in the 2 months of Wednesday coffee. On Saturday, she arrived at my door exactly 7, wearing a dark green dress that I was not prepared for. And I stood in my doorway for a moment before I remembered how to function. You look, I started. Don't, she said, in a voice that was not unkind, just preemptively embarrassed. Nice, I finished. I was going to say you look nice. She looked at me. She was wearing the almost smile. You too, she said. The party was fine. The agency holiday parties are always fine in the way that means nothing terrible happens and nothing particularly good happens either. But I was barely there in terms of my attention. I was mostly paying attention to Serena, who navigated my coworkers with a dry, polite competence that I found genuinely impressive, and who, at one point, while we were standing together at the edge of a conversation, turned her head slightly and said quietly near my ear, "The woman in the red blazer has been trying to get your attention for 4 minutes," which sent a small electrical thing down my spine that had nothing to do with the information and everything to do with her proximity. That's my boss. I murmured back. She has the energy of someone about to assign you work at a holiday party, Serena said. Oh God, I said, and turned to face my boss with a smile. Serena stood just slightly behind my shoulder for the duration of that conversation. And when my boss finally moved on, Serena said, "She did assign you work." It wasn't technically work, I said. It was a thinking item. A thinking item is work with no timeline, Serena said. That's worse. I laughed. She looked pleased with herself, not the almost smile, something RELER. We left at 9:30. She drove. In the car, heading back to my apartment, we were quiet for a while in the comfortable way that had become our normal. And I was aware of the space between us and the city lights through the windows and the fact that this night had felt, in some structural way, different from the Wednesday coffees. It had felt like something with a different kind of weight. At my street, she pulled over and left the engine running. "Thank you for coming," I said. "You didn't have to." "I wanted to," she said. She was looking straight ahead. Serena. She turned to look at me. We were close in the way that a car makes you close, the limited space of it. "Nothing," I said. "I just wanted to say your name before I got out." Something moved through her expression. I couldn't quite read it, not in the low light. Good night. Maya, she said. Good night, I said, and got out of the car. And did not turn around. The 3 weeks between that Saturday and Christmas happened in a way that felt accelerated. Charged with something that neither of us was naming, we texted now. That was new. It started with her sending me a link to an article about typography that she had thought I would find interesting. I did. And me responding with a question about it and the conversation spreading from there. It was not constant texting, not the performing closeness kind. It was the sporadic, organic kind where one of us would think of something and send it, and the other would respond a few hours later or the next morning. And the conversation would pick up without any friction. She sent me a paragraph she had written and then deleted from the novel. Just to show me, she said, and then added, "Don't read too much into the fact that I'm showing you this. I just needed someone to confirm it was bad before I moved on. I read it. It wasn't bad." I told her so. It's too sentimental. She wrote back. It's honest, I said. That reads a sentimentality when you're afraid of it. A long pause. Then, that's an annoying thing to say. I know, I said. It's also probably right, she said. Which is more annoying. I read that message several times. Then I put my phone down and looked at my ceiling for a while, on the last Wednesday before Christmas. She came to the coffee shop and sat not at her usual table but directly across from me at mine, which had never happened before. "Hi," I said. "I'm going to my parents for Christmas," she said. "I'll be gone for 10 days. Okay," I said. "I'm saying it like you need to know." "Which you don't need to know." "But you're saying it anyway," I said. "I'm saying it anyway," she agreed. And opened her laptop. I worked on a freelance project. She worked on her novel. At some point, we both got second coffees without discussing it. The morning light moved across the table. "Serena," I said at about the 1-hour mark. I'm glad you told me," I said. "That you're going." She looked up from her screen. "Why?" I thought about how to answer that. I thought about Kelly's voice. That doesn't sound lonely. "Because I would have noticed if you weren't here next Wednesday," I said. "And I would have wondered." She held my gaze for a moment. Then she looked back at her screen. "Same time when I'm back," she said. "Same time," I said. She left around noon. I sat there for a while after in the coffee shop that felt bigger without her in it. And I let myself know clearly, without trying to talk myself out of it, that I was in serious trouble. Serena was gone for 10 days. I did not text her, because she hadn't texted me. And I was determined not to be the person who texted someone on Christmas Day in a way that carried meaning they weren't ready to receive. I watched my phone in the specific way. You watch your phone when you're waiting for something you don't want to admit you're waiting for. On December 27th, she texted me a photo. It was a very bad painting of a winter scene hanging in her parents' living room, and the caption said, "This has been here my whole life and I never noticed how unhinged it is." I looked at the painting. I looked at it for a while. A deer was standing in snow that was the wrong color next to trees that seemed to be on fire, while a small house in the background was perfectly tranquil. There was a lot happening. The deer seems fine about it. I wrote back, "The deer knows something," she said. "The deer has made peace with the chaos. Goals," she said. And then, "How's Portland?" "Quiet, raining. Normal, I miss it," she said. And then immediately, "Miss the coffee shop, of course," I said, in a tone that I hoped communicated that I understood she might mean more than that, and that I was not going to make it a thing. "How's the holiday?" I told her about Christmas with my family, my mom, my sister's husband and their 2 kids who were small and delightful in the way that small children are when they belong to someone else. She told me about hers, her parents who were warm and exhausting in apparently equal measure, and an aunt who believed unshakably that Serena just hadn't met the right man yet. "What do you say to that?" I asked. "I've been saying maybe for 10 years, she wrote back. "One day I'll have the energy to say something else. What would you say if you had the energy?" A pause. Probably just the truth. Which is that I'm gay and I'm fine and not waiting for anything. I read that a few times. "That sounds like more than fine," I said. "It is," she said. Most days. She came back on the 2nd of January. The Wednesday was the 4th, and she was already at the coffee shop when I arrived. At the table that was now definitively our table. With 2 coffees already on it. "You got mine," I said. "Oat milk latte," she said. It's probably the right order. It's exactly the right order, I said and sat down. And it was normal and comfortable, and I felt the specific warmth of being back in something good. How was the rest of the holiday? She asked. Long, I said. Good but long, you? Same. She picked up her coffee. I wrote 7 pages on the train back. Of the novel? Of the novel, good ones? She considered. Some of them, progress, I said. Progress, she agreed, and something in the words sounded like more than she was saying. It was late January. A Friday, not our usual Wednesday, which was already significant. She had texted me in the afternoon. Are you doing anything tonight? No pressure. I just finished a section and I want to be around someone who won't ask me what the book is about. I had been doing nothing. I said so. She came over. This was new, her at my apartment rather than us in the coffee shop or at a restaurant. I was aware, in a low-level background way, of all the small details that felt different about it. Her sitting on the couch I loved too much. Her picking up one of my books from the side table and reading the back cover with genuine attention. Her noticing the plants. You named them, she said. There's a label system, I said. She found the little paper labels. She read them. Ophelia, she said. Dorothea. Anne, which Anne? Shirley, I said, of course. She moved on. Estella, H.M. I went through a Dickens phase, I said. She was acquired during the Dickens phase. And this one? She pointed to the one on the windowsill. Alex, I said. She looked at me. That's not a literary character. It's a personal exception, I said. Who is Alex? A person I knew in college. She died. I got the plant after. Serena was quiet for a moment. I'm sorry, she said. It was a long time ago, I said. But I like having something that's still growing. She looked at the plant for a moment and then at me with an expression I couldn't fully catalog. Something in the vicinity of tenderness, maybe. Something that made me need to go into the kitchen and pretend to look for something. We ordered takeout. We talked for hours. She told me more about the novel than she ever had before, not just the shape of it but the actual story. The 2 women at its center. The thing she was trying to say about time and regret and the way you can love someone and still not be able to hold on. It sounds like you, I said, carefully. It is me, she said. All fiction is autobiography in a costume. Is that why you don't want people asking about it? Because it's personal? It's personal, she said. And because people's questions always reveal what they're actually asking, which is usually whether it has a happy ending. Does it? She looked at me. Why does everyone want a happy ending? Because they're satisfying, I said. Because they give you something to carry out with you. Unhappy endings give you something too, she said. They do, I said. But they feel like a wound. Wounds are informative, she said. I'm not arguing against unhappy endings, I said. I'm explaining the appeal of the other kind. They make you feel like something is possible. She was quiet. She was looking at the space between us, which was not a lot of space. We had both ended up on the same end of the couch at some point in the evening. A slow gravitational drift that neither of us had acknowledged. Something is possible, she said, very quietly. Not to me exactly. To herself, maybe. Working something out. Serena, I said. Don't, she said. I haven't said anything. You're about to. How do you know? Because your voice changed, she said. Just now. It got a different quality. She looked at me. I noticed things. Remember? I remember, I said, a beat. Tell me I'm wrong, she said. If I'm wrong. You're not wrong, I said. She looked at me for a long moment. Something moved through her expression, not the almost smile, not any of the gradations I had catalogued. Something more complex and more fragile than all of them. Maya, she said, you don't have to, I started. I know I don't have to, she said. But I want to be honest with you because I think you deserve that. Okay, I said, steadying myself for whatever was coming. I'm scared, she said. I'm genuinely, rationally, reasonable person scared. Because I think I know what this is, what's been happening for the last several months, and I know what it means if she paused. And the last time I was this certain about something, I was wrong in a way that took me a long time to recover from. I know, I said. You told me. So you understand why I understand completely, I said. I'm scared too. She looked at me. You don't seem scared. I'm very scared, I said. I'm scared of exactly the same thing you are. None of the specific, I'm not scared of you. I'm scared of what happens after if this doesn't work. I'm scared of losing the Wednesday thing. I'm scared of losing this. I gestured vaguely at the couch, the apartment, the evening we've been having, which has been the best thing in my life for the last several months. Serena looked at me for a long time. The Wednesday thing, she said finally. It matters to me. I said, it matters to me too, she said. More than it should, probably. Why more than it should? Because I came in there trying to write my novel, she said. And instead I built a whole thing. She made a slightly helpless gesture. A thing, I said. I don't know what to call it, she said. I know what I'd call it. I said, don't, she said, but softer this time. Why not? Because if you say it, then I have to decide what to do with it, she said, and I'm not ready. I let that land. Okay, I said, okay? I'm not going anywhere, I said. You can take whatever time you need. I just needed you to know. She looked at me for a moment that stretched out in a way that felt important. You're very, she started. If you say nice, I'm going to be mildly offended, I said. Something genuine broke open in her expression then, a real smile. The first fully real one I had ever seen from her, and it was stunning in the quiet, devastating way that things are stunning when you've been waiting for them without fully knowing you were waiting. I wasn't going to say nice, she said. What were you going to say? She shook her head a little, still smiling. Good night, Maya, she said. And she gathered herself and her things in the slow way of someone who doesn't want to leave. And she left. I sat on my couch in the quiet of my apartment for a while. Then I texted Kali. Something happened, Kali said. Tell me everything. I did. The 2 weeks after that Friday were strange in a good way. Slightly charged with something that both of us could feel, but neither of us was pressing on. She texted more. I texted more. The texture of it was different, more personal, more specific, less like sharing interesting articles and more like talking. The things you say to someone you're getting closer to. Her anxiety about a work project. My restless feeling about my career, which had been building for months. She told me she'd been up at midnight working on the novel and had written something she actually liked. I told her about a dream I'd had about my grandmother but had left me sad in that particular dream sad way that lingers. Do you tell most people about your dreams? She asked. Not usually, I said. I don't know why I told you. I don't mind, she said. And then, after a moment, tell me more about your grandmother, and I did. And she listened. And that was what I mean when I say it was the best thing in my life. On the Wednesday after the couch night, she came to the coffee shop and sat across from me and opened her laptop, and we worked for an hour before she said, without looking up, I keep thinking about what you said. About something being possible. I looked up from my project. I think I'm getting there, she said. I just want you to know that. Okay, I said. I'm not making any promises about Serena, I said. What? You don't have to explain yourself to me, I said. I told you. I'm not going anywhere. She looked at me. That's annoyingly patient of you. I'm a patient person, I said. You don't seem like one. What do I seem like? She thought about it. Someone who has opinions about things, she said. A lot of opinions. Strong ones. Both things can be true, I said. I can have strong opinions and also not rush you. Why? She asked. Because this matters, I said. And when something matters, I don't want to hurry it. She absorbed that. Then she looked back at her screen. Same time next week, she said. Same time, I said, but this time she said it differently. Like a promise rather than a habit. February arrived with the particular Portland determination that takes gray and makes it a lifestyle. My mornings were darker, my apartment felt cozier, and I was deeply aware that I had been in love with Serena for what I now estimated was approximately 4 months. Possibly 5, I had not said it. I had said I know what I call it, which was a sideways approach. And I had been patient, which I was proud of. And she was getting there, she had said so. And I believed her. Valentine's Day fell on a Wednesday. I had not planned anything around this. I was very deliberately not planning anything around this because any plan felt like pressure. And pressure felt like the wrong approach with Serena, who needed space to arrive at things on her own terms. I went to the coffee shop at the usual time with the full intention of having a completely normal Wednesday. She was already there. She was not at our table. She was at the counter talking to the person behind the register. And on the table, our table, there were 2 coffees already and something small next to them. I came closer. The something small was a tiny, obviously handmade card. I picked it up. I know you have opinions about this date. I have opinions about this date too. Both of our opinions are valid, and also I thought you should have this. Inside, in her handwriting. Thank you for not rushing me. I looked up. She was watching me from across the coffee shop with an expression that had none of the ambiguity of the almost smiles. That was open in a way I had not seen from her before. I held the card. I walked to her. This was very sweet, I said. Don't make it weird, she said. I'm not making it weird. I'm saying it was sweet. It was practical, she said. It conveys information. It does convey information, I said. It conveys that you were thinking about me. I'm frequently thinking about you, she said, and then seemed to decide with visible deliberateness not to take it back. Serena, I said. Double quotes, yes. Can I say the thing now? She took a breath. Yes, she said. I'm in love with you, I said. I've been in love with you for months. You are the most interesting person I have met in years, and you notice everything, and you have strong opinions, and you make me laugh in the way I forgot was possible. And I don't want to go back to the part where Wednesdays were just Wednesdays. She looked at me for a moment. I'm not good at this, she said. I know, I said. I'm not good at trusting it. I'm going to be annoying about it sometimes. I'm going to second-guess things. I know, I said. You're okay with that? I'm okay with you, I said. However that comes. She was quiet for a long moment. The coffee shop did its coffee shop things around us. The espresso machine, the soft music. The other people who were not us and did not know what was happening at this particular spot near the counter. I'm scared, she said again. I know, I said. Me too. But you're saying it anyway. I am, I said. She looked at me with that open expression that I was still getting used to. That was still new enough to land somewhere important every time. Me too, she said. Quiet, certain, for the record. I don't know how long we stood there. Long enough that the person behind the counter probably noticed. We should go sit down, she said eventually. We should, I agreed. We went to our table. We sat across from each other. She opened her laptop, I opened mine, and we sat in the particular warm quiet that had been ours for 5 months. After a while, she looked up. Maya, she said. Yeah? Just checking, she said. I'm here, I said. Good, she said, and went back to her novel. The relationship, which is what it was now, named and known, was not a dramatic revelation. It was more like the satisfaction of having a word for something you already felt. I think people expect love to feel like a door opening. All at once, a before and after with a clear hinge. For Serena and me, it was more like a light being turned up. The same room, the same warmth, just brighter. More visible. She came to my apartment on a Saturday and helped me repot Dorothea, who had outgrown her pot, and we got soil on my kitchen counter, and she made a focused, serious face while reading the instructions I had printed from the internet. And I thought, yes, this is it. This is the specific texture of what I want. She let me read more of the novel. Not all of it. She was not ready for all of it, but sections. She sent me chapters at midnight with messages like, I'm not asking for feedback. I just need someone to have read it, and you can tell me it's terrible, and okay, fine. You can tell me what you actually think. I told her what I actually thought, which was that it was extraordinary, and she needed to stop treating it like a problem to be solved and let it be the thing it was trying to be. You're biased, she said. I am biased, I agreed. I'm also right. Those aren't mutually exclusive, she said. No, I said. They're not. She met Kali in March. At dinner at a restaurant, Kali had chosen specifically to be neutral, which was a thing Kali did when she was vetting someone and wanted them to feel at ease while she assessed them. I knew this. I did not tell Serena this. Kali was charming and warm and entirely herself. And Serena was polite and attentive and slightly wary, which I had expected. And at the end of the dinner, Kali excused herself to the bathroom, and Serena leaned toward me and said quietly, "She's been evaluating me all night." "She's protective," I said. "I know," Serena said. "It's good. You should have people like that." When Kali came back, they got into a conversation about a book they had both independently read. And by the end of it, Kali was laughing at something Serena had said with a genuine ease that Kali only brought out for people she actually liked. In the car going home, I said, "She likes you?" "I think so," Serena said. And there was a small note of relief in her voice that she probably didn't know I could hear. "Were you worried?" I said. "It matters to you," she said. "So yes." I loved her very specifically in that moment, for the way she understood what was important and showed up for it. Even when it cost her something, I want to take a chapter and just say, "This is who she is." She made coffee with extreme care every morning. She had opinions about the water temperature and the grind size, and she was not apologetic about those opinions. She would get defensive about them in the mild, not serious way that indicated she knew it was slightly absurd to have strong feelings about coffee preparation, but had decided the absurdity was acceptable. That is a kind of love that I think gets underestimated. The kind that keeps careful, quiet track of you. She was also funny. I've said this, but I want to be specific. She was funny in the way of someone who notices the comedy that's already present in situations, rather than creating it. She observed things and reflected them back with a slight twist that made you see them differently. She was dry and precise and occasionally devastating. And she never punched at people, only at ideas and situations, which said something about her that I respected. She finished the novel in April. It was a Tuesday. And she called me, which she rarely did. We were mostly texters, and said, "I finished," in a voice that sounded like someone who had climbed something very tall and reached the top and was now standing there in the wind trying to determine how they felt about it. "How do you feel?" I said. "Strange," she said. "Hollow, good, scared. All at once?" "In rotating sequence," she said. "Come over," I said. "Now?" "Yes, now." She came over. I had acquired wine, and she brought the last chapter on her laptop. And she read it aloud to me sitting on the couch, reading aloud in a slightly different voice. The voice she must have when she's inside the work, and when she finished she closed the laptop and looked at the middle distance. "Was it good?" she asked, meaning the chapter. "It was perfect," I said. "It's not," she said. "But I can't tell anymore. I've lost perspective." "That's how you know it's done," I said. "When you can't tell anymore." She thought about this. "That's either very wise or a complete rationalization. Why can't it be both?" I said. She leaned into me then, the specific weight of her, and said, "Thank you." "For what?" "Being here for this." "I wouldn't be anywhere else," I said. We sat there while the city did its thing outside the window. The ambient sound of Portland on a Tuesday in April, and I held on to her and she let herself be held, which I knew she was still learning, which I was honored to be part of. It would not be honest to tell this story without the hard parts. The hard part for us was her fear, which did not go away the way I had naively hoped it would when she first named it. It didn't vanish once the feelings were declared. It was more like a weather system that moved in sometimes unexpectedly. And she would get quiet in a particular way that I learned to recognize. The first time it happened, we had been together officially for about 6 weeks. And we had a disagreement, not even a real argument. A small friction over something I no longer remember, and she went quiet in a way that lasted through the evening and into the next morning. And when I texted her, she replied briefly and without her usual warmth. I gave it a day. Then I called. "Is this the thing?" I asked. A pause. "What thing?" "The scared thing." "Is that what's happening?" Another pause, longer. "Probably," she said. "Yes. Can you tell me what it looks like from the inside?" I asked. "So I know what I'm dealing with." "It looks like..." She stopped. "It looks like waiting for the part where it goes wrong. Like, I know things are fine, I can see that they're fine, and some part of me is still just waiting." "Okay," I said. "That's probably annoying," she said. "It's not," I said. "It's just fear." "It's not you. It is me," she said. "Fair enough," I said. "Then it's a part of you that's separate from the part of you that's here with me. And I'm talking to the part that's here." A long silence. That's a strange way to put it, she said. Does it help? A little, she said. I think I need another day. Take whatever you need, I said. You keep saying that. I keep meaning it, I said. She called me the next night and said she was sorry. And I told her she had nothing to be sorry about. And she told me she was working on it, not just saying it, actively working on it in therapy, which she had started going back to. You went back to therapy? I said. I wanted to deal with this properly, she said. If I'm going to, she stopped. If you're going to what? If I'm going to be in this, she said. I want to be in it well, not just present with the fear. I was very quiet for a moment. Serena, I said. Don't, she said. I love you, I said. I know, she said. I know you do. And then quieter, I love you too. It was the first time she'd said it. Fully, simply, without qualification. I held the phone and let it be real. I met her parents and made this was significant because she had not brought people home to meet her parents in a long time. And the fact that she wanted to now was something she conveyed in the way she conveyed most important things, obliquely, practically, with a minimum of fanfare. My parents want to meet you, she said one Wednesday. My mom mostly. She's been asking, what have you told her about me? That you exist, she said. That's a start, I said. She wants to know if you're good for me, Serena said. What did you tell her? I told her she could determine that herself. I flew with her to visit her parents in Sacramento over a long weekend. Her mother was warm and immediate. She hugged me before we'd exchanged more than 20 words, which clearly made Serena uncomfortable and which I found completely charming. Her father was quieter, thoughtful in the same way Serena was, given to long pauses that turned out to contain real content. On the second day, while Serena was on a walk with her mother, I sat with her father on the back porch. She seems better, he said. Better than what? I asked. Better than she was, he said. 2 years ago, 3 years ago. There was a hard time. She told me a little, I said. She doesn't share easily, he said. The fact that she told you anything at all means something. I know, I said. He looked at me with the kind of directness that parents deploy when they're assessing the person their child has chosen. She's stubborn, he said. She takes a long time to let people in. But once she does, she's completely in, I said. He looked at me for a moment. Yes, he said. Serena and her mother came back through the garden. Serena's mother was gesturing about something, and Serena was doing the not quite smile that I now recognized meant she was trying to contain actual amusement. And her hair was loose and the California sun was on it, and she looked, for a moment, entirely unguarded in the way she only was in very specific circumstances. She caught me looking. A small beat. Then she sat down next to me. What were you talking about? She asked. You, I said. Great, she said. Nothing weird? Just good things, her father said, and picked up his book. Serena looked at me. Good things, I confirmed. She leaned against my shoulder briefly in the easy, unself-conscious way that told me she had arrived somewhere. Summer came to Portland with its particular lavishness. The city becomes a different place between June and September. Lush and golden, the gray so thoroughly reversed that you almost forget it's the other season's default. Serena and I moved through it like we had been doing this for years, even though we hadn't. There is a way in which some relationships immediately find their shape, the exact form they will take, and then stay in that shape with a natural ease that doesn't require construction. We had found ours in a coffee shop over winter and spring, and summer was just the same shape and better light. She stayed at my apartment more nights than not. She had a section of my bookshelf, which had happened organically. She brought a book, needed another one, found herself with 6 in a pile on the left side of the third shelf. And we both looked at the pile one day and I said, should I just clear a section? And she said, if you want, and I cleared a section. The plants were still alive. Alex on the windowsill was doing particularly well. I was working through a decision about my career. I had started taking on more freelance projects for clients I actually liked. And the idea of doing that full-time was becoming less like a fantasy and more like a calculation I was running. Serena was working on revisions to the novel, which she had sent to 2 agents, one of whom had requested the full manuscript. That's incredible, I said. When she told me, It might not go anywhere, she said immediately. I know, I said. But it might. And even if it doesn't, a real agent who reads real things for a living requested the full manuscript. That's a real thing. She allowed this to be a real thing. I watched her let it be a good thing, which she was getting better at. We had a disagreement in July. A real one, not the small friction of 6 weeks in, but something with more edges. About something I'm not going to recount in detail because it belonged to us. But the shape of it was, I said something careless. She retreated, and instead of waiting, I pressed. Which was not the right move, and she told me so. We figured it out. We sat at my kitchen table and talked it through in the somewhat uncomfortable, honest way that you have to when you're committed to someone. It took most of an evening. At the end of it, she said, I think we handled that okay, and I agreed, and she said, I wasn't sure we would, and I said, were you scared? And she said, yes, and I said, me too, and she said, but we did, and I said, but we did. She reached across the table and put her hand over mine, and I turned mine over and held hers. And we sat there for a while. Thank you for not leaving, she said. Why would I leave? I said, in my head, she said. In my fear brain. That's what happens. I'm not leaving, I said. I'm going to stay at this table until you know I'm not leaving. That's ridiculous, she said. We can get more tea, I said. She laughed, the real one. The one that started with the almost smile and broke open into actual amusement, and I poured more tea. And we stayed at the table for another hour, talking about nothing in particular. Just the texture of us being in the same place. The agent passed. This happened on an August afternoon. In a 2-sentence email that Serena read while we were at the coffee shop and then set her phone down with a specific quietness. They passed, she said. I'm sorry, I said. It's fine, she said. In the way that meant it wasn't, yet I did not tell her it would work out. I did not tell her another agent would say yes. I did not provide the list of authors who had faced many rejections before their eventual success, because she knew that list and hearing it was not what she needed. Do you want to go somewhere? I asked. Like where? Outside, I said. Walk somewhere. I'll buy you lunch. She looked at her laptop, which had her revisions open on the screen. She looked at the email still visible on her phone. Yeah, she said. Okay, we walked to a place by the river and ate outside in the August warmth, and she was quiet for most of it. In the way that wasn't shut down but was processing. And I let her process, and after a while she said, I know it's one agent. It is, I said. I know there are 15 more on my list. There are. I said. I still feel like it's a verdict, she said. It's a no from a person, I said. Not a verdict. I know that. She looked at the river. I care about this one a lot. I know, I said. Because it's you. She looked at me. It's the most honest thing you've made, I said. Of course, rejection feels personal. It is personal. And feeling bad about it is legitimate and fine. I wanted it to work, she said. I know, I said. I wanted it for you too. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, okay, I need to feel bad about it for exactly the rest of today and then I'm moving on. Fair, I said. Hold me to it, she said. I will, I said. We walked back along the river. She put her hand in mine, which she did now without preamble easily. And we walked in the warmth and the light, and I thought about the fact that I had no idea. On a Wednesday in October in a coffee shop, sitting at the table next to a stranger who told me my music was too loud, that I was sitting next to the person who would become the center of my life, the particular ordinary surprise. Of it never stopped feeling like something. There is a thing she said to me in September that I have turned over many times since we were lying in bed on a Sunday morning, the light coming through the curtains in that slow Sunday way, and I was almost asleep and almost awake in the particular balance of a restful morning. And she said, I used to think I didn't believe in this. In what? I said without opening my eyes. This, she said. I felt her gesture at the space. At us. The whole, I used to think it was a story people told. Not dishonestly. I think people believe it. But I thought the certainty I used to feel was actually the problem. I was certain and I was wrong. So maybe certainty about this is always a mistake. And now? I said, a pause. Now I think I was wrong about what certainty means, she said. I was certain about a specific outcome. And that outcome didn't happen. But that's different from this is different. How? I said, opening my eyes now. She was looking at the ceiling. I'm not certain about outcomes, she said. I don't know what happens. I can't promise you nothing ever goes wrong or that this is guaranteed. She paused. But I'm certain about you. Not what you'll do or what will be or what the future is. Just you. The fact of you. I looked at her. I know that might not make sense, she said. It makes sense, I said. It's the best I can do, she said. With the certainty thing. It's more than enough, I said. She looked at me. That open expression that I was still not entirely used to, still not quite able to take for granted. Which was perhaps how it should be. I love you, she said. I love you, I said outside. Portland went about its September business. Cool and golden, just beginning its return toward gray. Inside, the morning light moved slowly across the ceiling. It was October again. Specifically, it was a Wednesday in October. And I was at the coffee shop at the usual time, and so was she, 1 year, more or less. From the morning she had told me my music was too loud. She was at the table already, our table. The one that had been ours for a year that the staff had apparently started thinking of as ours. Which I knew because the person who worked Tuesday, Thursday mornings had once gestured us toward it, when we come in separately. 2 coffees on the table. She was looking at her laptop. Hi, I said. Hi, she said. I sat down. She was reading something on her screen. I could see from the layout that it was her email. Anything good? I said. She didn't answer for a moment. She was reading, then she said in a completely level voice, I got an offer. I looked up from unpacking my bag. What? She turned the laptop to face me. The email was from a literary agent. I read it quickly, the words excited, represent. I think this is a book that needs to be in the world, visible even in a fast scan, Serena, I said. Yes, she said. This is an offer of representation, I said. Yes, she said. In the same level voice, Serena, I know, she said. Are you okay? I don't know, she said. I think so. I think I might cry, which I don't want to do in the coffee shop. You can cry in the coffee shop, I said. I really don't want to cry in the coffee shop, she said. And then her voice did the thing that voices do just before. And she pressed her lips together and looked at the ceiling. I reached across the table and put my hand over hers, she breathed out. She collected herself with the particular discipline she brought to things that threatened to overwhelm her. Then she looked at me. It happened, she said. It happened, I said. The thing I was afraid to want. Yes, I said. She looked at our hands on the table. I was so certain it wouldn't, she said. I was protecting myself by not wanting it too much. And? I said, and it happened anyway, she said. Which means the not wanting wasn't protection. It was just limiting. Yes, I said. That applies to other things too, she said. Looking up at me, I know, I said. I'm still learning that, she said. Me too, I said. She squeezed my hand. I squeezed back. The coffee shop did its coffee shop things around us, the espresso machine, the music. The other people who did not know what was happening at this particular table on this particular Wednesday in October, which was 2 people who had found each other in the specific ordinary way of being in the same place, noticing each other slowly, being brave enough eventually, with difficulty, with fear, with patience to say so. I want to end this by telling you something about love that I did not know before, Serena, which is that it does not announce itself. I'd been waiting, without knowing I was waiting, for something that felt like the love described in every film and song I had ever consumed, the recognition. The immediate certainty, the before and after clarity. I thought love was something that happened to you, sudden and complete. And then you just had to figure out what to do with it. What actually happened was this. A woman sat at a table next to mine and told me my music was too loud. She came back the following week. And the week after that. We talked. We learned each other in pieces. She trusted me slowly, and I waited because she was worth waiting for. We were scared. We were honest about the fear. We moved toward each other anyway, not in spite of the fear but alongside it. That is the real story. And I think more love stories look like that than we usually talk about. Because the gradual ones don't have a single dramatic moment that translates well to a thumbnail, but I would take the gradual one every time. The one built Wednesday by Wednesday, coffee by coffee. The accumulated weight of someone who pays attention to you and who lets you pay attention to them. The one where the best moment is not the first one but the 100th, the 230th, the unremarkable Tuesday when she's making coffee and she knows exactly how you take it and you think, yes, this is it. This is the whole thing. Serena finished her revisions in January. The novel goes to publishers in the spring. I left my agency job and went fully freelance in December. Working with clients I actually like on projects I actually care about, which is terrifying and the best decision I've ever made professionally. Alex, the plant on the windowsill is still growing. We still go to the coffee shop every Wednesday. It is still the best part of my week, the same way it was before and the same way it is now. Except now she sits across from me instead of at the next table, one Wednesday in early March. She looked up from her laptop and said, "I've been thinking." "About what?" I said. "About whether we should move in together," she said, with the matter-of-fact directness that I loved. The way she brought real things to the surface without decoration. I looked at her. "The math makes sense," she said. "You're at my place half the time, I'm at yours the other half. The plant situation is already complicated across 2 apartments." "The plant situation," I said. "I'm using it as a practical argument," she said. "You understand there are other arguments." "What are the other arguments?" I said. She looked at me with the open expression that was still new enough to matter, that I had learned was not given easily and therefore meant everything. "I want to be in the same place as you," she said. "I want the everyday." "I'm ready for the everyday." "Okay," I said. "Okay, you'll think about it?" "Okay, yes," I said. She blinked. "That was fast." "I've been thinking about it for 6 months," I said. "I was waiting for you to be ready." "There it is," she said, in a voice that was exasperated and fond in equal measure, which was perhaps the most Serena sound she made. "There's the patience thing again." "It works," I said. "It does," she said and smiled. The real one, full and unguarded, the one I would never get entirely used to. We found an apartment together in April. It had good light and space for the plants, all of them. Both apartments worth, and a kitchen with a counter long enough for her very specific coffee setup, and a room where she could write. And windows that looked out onto the street, ordinary and good. The day we moved the last box in, we stood in the middle of the empty-ish living room. The furniture was there. The boxes were stacked. It was ours but not yet familiar, and she looked around and then at me. "Hi," she said. "Hi," I said. "I still think your music is too loud," she said. "I know," I said. "I'll try to do better." "Don't," she said. "I've gotten used to it." And she had. And I had gotten used to her. And getting used to someone, the specific comfort of someone becoming part of the ordinary texture of your days, is not a lesser form of love. It is, in fact, the deepest one. That is the story. Not a perfect story, we are ongoing, which means it isn't finished, which means the hard parts are still ahead and also still the worth it. But the truest story I know how to tell. The girl who hated romance and the girl who had stopped looking, and a coffee shop on a Wednesday and everything that grew from there. There is a specific kind of morning that belongs only to the life you've built slowly, over time, without quite noticing you are building it. It starts before the alarm. It starts with the way the light comes through the curtains we picked out together at a market on a Saturday in June, linen. Slightly impractical, Serena's choice, and she was right about them the way she is quietly. Infuriatingly right about most things related to the physical environment of our life. The light comes through soft and early, and Portland is doing its October thing outside. Which means the trees on our street are gold and the air has that particular edge that makes everything feel more deliberate, more chosen. I wake up first, usually. This is a discovery of living together, that I am constitutionally a slightly earlier riser, and she is someone who moves toward consciousness slowly, in stages, like a ship turning. She does not like being spoken to for the first 10 minutes. I have learned this, and I honor it completely. And she has noticed that I honor it, and I think this is one of the small, unspoken things that has made us work. I lie there for a while. I watch the ceiling. I listen to her breathe. This is not nothing. I want to be clear about that. The people who tell you that the ordinary moments are the ones that matter are not being sentimental. They are being accurate. This right here, the ceiling and the light and the sound of someone you love existing next to you is what all the fear was protecting you from. And it protected you from it for a while, and then you got here anyway. And you realize, I cannot believe I almost didn't let this happen. I think that a lot still. Almost 2 years of sharing a space, a life, a coffee setup that has strong opinions embedded in it, and I still have moments where I think, I cannot believe I almost didn't let this happen. I was so close to being too afraid. So close to letting the Wednesdays stay just Wednesdays. I get up quietly. I make coffee. I get Serena's order exactly right because I have done it enough times that it lives in my hands now. The sequence of it, the specific way she likes it made. And there is something I find genuinely lovely about that, about love becoming physical memory. Becoming the body knowing what the person needs. I take mine to the window seat, another choice that was right, the window seat. We both use it constantly in a way neither of us fully anticipated, and I look out at the gold trees and the October street, and I think about the past 2 years. Here's what the past 2 years looked like. We moved in, which I told you. April, the apartment with good light. We spent the first week reorganizing the kitchen 3 times because we had, between us, enough kitchen items for 2 full households and needed to decide what stayed and what went. And this turned out to involve more negotiation than either of us expected. And there was a conversation about the correct number of spatulas that was both absurd and, in retrospect, a genuinely useful early exercise in the mechanics of sharing space with another person. She kept 4 spatulas. I kept 2. We compromised. The plants took over the windowsills and several other surfaces that had not initially been designated for plants, but had drifted that way through a process of gradual plant expansion that Serena claimed she did not authorize and I maintain was inevitable given the number of plants I own. Alex is in the best spot, the east-facing window in the room where she writes. Because the light there is exactly right in the morning and because I thought, and this was a sentimental impulse I did not explain at the time, that Alex should be in the place where something is being made. The novel sold. I have to say this clearly because it deserves its own sentence. The novel sold. It happened in June of that first year, 8 months after Serena's agent made the offer. After rounds of revisions and a period of waiting that Serena navigated with more grace than she gave herself credit for. She called me from the kitchen, I was in the other room, and I heard her voice change before I understood the words. And I came in, and she was standing by the window, with her phone pressed to her ear, and her face was doing something I had not seen it do before. She was crying. Not the quiet kind, the surprised kind, the kind that takes you before you can organize a defense against it. I stood in the doorway. She looked at me and said, still on the phone, hold on a second, and then to me, it's sold. I crossed the kitchen. I put my arms around her. She held onto me with one hand and her phone with the other, while her agent presumably talked about figures and timelines and things. That mattered enormously and that neither of us was going to track for the next 60 seconds. Hi, I said into her hair. Hi, she said. Her voice was wrecked in the good way. It happened, I said. It happened, she said. She finished the call. We stood in the kitchen for a while afterward, just standing there. The unremarkable kitchen of our apartment that became, that afternoon, the place where I watched the thing she had worked toward for 4 years arrive. That is the kind of thing you want to be present for. The specific arrival of something someone has fought for. I was so grateful to be there. I'm so grateful that she let me be there. The book comes out in 3 months. I have read it. All of it, the finished version, the one that went through her editor and came back changed in ways that Serena sometimes loved and sometimes argued about with a specificity and conviction that made her editor. She reports both respect her and occasionally need a break from her. It is extraordinary. I am biased and I'm right, and more people than me have now said so. Because there have been early readers and advance reviews, and a particularly generous response from someone whose work Serena admires, who said something about the book in 3 sentences that made Serena sit very quietly for a moment and then say, okay, I think I can accept that it might be good. You think? I said, I'm working on it, she said. You've been working on that for years, I said. Accepting good things? She said, yes, I said. I'm faster at it than I used to be, she said, which is true and which I count as genuine progress. The book is dedicated, and she showed me this when she finalized it, sitting at her desk, turning her laptop to face me with the careful expression of someone offering something important to two people, her parents and me. She had written my name in the dedication and beneath it a single line, for showing me what it looks like when someone stays. I read it twice. Then I put the laptop down gently and I took her face in my hands and I kissed her for a long moment. And when I pulled back, she was doing the thing where she pretends the emotion isn't happening by being very still. And I said, it's okay to let it be a big deal. It's just words, she said. It's the book, I said. The 4-year book. And my name is in the front of it. I know that, she said, very quietly. Let it be a big deal, I said. She breathed out. She let it. My work is good. I want to mention this because I spent so many years treating my career as the stable, sensible thing that I did instead of the thing I actually wanted. And it turns out the thing I actually wanted was available to me all along, and I just needed to believe it was a reasonable option. I went fully freelance 18 months ago. It was terrifying. It is still occasionally terrifying in the specific financial uncertainty way of being self-employed, which Serena takes in stride because she has lived with that uncertainty for years and has developed a philosophical relationship with it that I'm still learning from, but the work is real now. I take on projects that interest me. I work with clients who are making things worth making. I have 2 long-term clients who trust me enough to give me genuine creative latitude, which is the thing I had wanted for years without quite believing it was something I could have. I work from home mostly in the room that is technically the second bedroom and technically her writing room, but that we share. Each at our own desk, which is perhaps the most intimate thing about our life together, that we work in the same space, in the same quiet, and it is not distracting but the opposite. A steadiness that comes from knowing the other person is there. Some mornings we don't speak for 2-3 hours. We are each in our own thing. Music plays from whoever started it. Her taste and mine have a significant overlap, which I take as cosmically significant and she takes as a statistical inevitability, given our ages and general cultural exposure. Occasionally one of us will find something and push a pair of earbuds across the desk. Listen to this. The other listens. Sometimes a nod. Sometimes a conversation that goes somewhere unexpected and costs us an hour. Those are some of my favorite hours. I called Kali on a Saturday in July and she said, before I could say anything, you sound disgustingly happy. I might be, I said. Good, she said. You needed that. You needed the thing. The thing, I said. The person, she said. You needed the person. I know, I said. She's good, Kali said. It was a verdict delivered plainly. She's the best, I said. Which is a thing I would not have said out loud 2 years ago. Because 2 years ago I was still in the part of myself that kept the most important feelings in careful reserve, in case. I am less in that part now. Serena, oddly, is responsible for that, the woman who is still. At the core of herself, cautious about trust has made me less cautious. Not by telling me to be, but by modeling what it looks like to decide. Slowly and with full awareness of the risk, to be in something anyway. She taught me by example. People do that sometimes. The ones who have the hardest time with something, and who choose it anyway. Teach you more about choosing than anyone who found it easy. There is a Wednesday ritual that has outlasted all the changes. We still go to the coffee shop. Every Wednesday, approximately 8:30. The coffee shop with the good light and the not aggressively trendy music and the oat milk latte that remains. In my opinion, the best available thing on a Wednesday morning in Portland. We have been going for 3 years now, counting the year before everything changed. And the staff knows us without us ever having formally introduced ourselves to them. In the way that regular presence creates a kind of quiet recognition, we sit at the same table. We work, we are mostly quiet. Sometimes we talk. Sometimes something comes up in the work that needs a second opinion and we ask each other in a casual, low-friction way of people who have established that the other person's input is trustworthy. Sometimes she looks up from whatever she's doing and says, "Hey, and I say, "Hey," and that's it. That's the whole exchange. And it is, inexplicably, one of the better things in my life, that specific, small acknowledgement. Hey, you're still there. I'm still here. This is still good. On the 2-year anniversary of the day she told me my music was too loud, I had a plan. I am, to be clear, someone who makes plans. Serena is someone who makes decisions. There is a difference. She decides things. I plan them. We had been navigating this compatibility question for 2 years with, I think, reasonable success. I had planned a specific evening. Not elaborate, she does not love elaborate, it makes her feel performed at. But intentional. Dinner at the restaurant where we had our first proper dinner, just the two of us. The Thai place where we stayed until they started putting chairs up. And then back to the apartment, and I had gotten, this is embarrassing and I stand by it, a small cake. Because we had established in our first year together that she is constitutionally unable to turn down dessert even when she claims she doesn't want any, what actually happened is that it was a Wednesday. And we were at the coffee shop, and around 11 she looked up from her laptop and said, "Do you know what day it is?" "October 14th, I said. "Yes," she said. 3 years ago today, I said. She looked at me. More or less. More or less, I agreed. We worked for a while longer. Then she closed her laptop, which she did not normally do before noon. "Let's go somewhere," she said. "Where?" "Anywhere. I want to be outside. I want to walk somewhere." We went to the river. It was October and cold, and we were both slightly underdressed for it, and neither of us mentioned that. We walked along the path with our coffees, and the trees were doing the gold thing, and the city sounded like itself, and she put her hand in mine. We walked for a while without talking. Then she said, "I was so sure I had closed this down." "Which thing?" I said, "The wanting someone thing. The building a life with someone thing." I had made peace with not having it. I had genuinely made peace with it. She paused. "And then you were just sitting at a table listening to music too loud, and completely destroyed my peace." "I'm sorry," I said. "You're not," she said. "I'm really not." I said, "Good," she said. We walked a little further. "I don't know how to say the thing I'm trying to say," she said. "It's not a language I naturally flew in." "Take your time," I said. "I'm trying to say that this is the thing." She squeezed my hand. "That I know what this is now. I know the difference between being certain about an outcome, which is what I was before and which was always going to be unstable, and being certain about a person, which is what I am now, and which is, I think this one holds. I think this one is real." I turned to look at her. The river behind her, the gold October light. The scar above her left eyebrow that I now knew the story of. She fell off a bike when she was 8. She was trying to go faster than was advisable. She had not been wearing a helmet because she had decided helmets were not for her. And her mother still brings it up. "It's real," I said. "I know," she said. "I know it is. I needed to say it out loud. To you. So that I've said it. Consider it said," I said. "Consider it heard?" she said, which was a slight question. "Consider it heard," I said. "And held." And absolutely reciprocated. She looked at me for a moment. The not quite smile, and then beyond it, the real one. "Okay," she said. "Good." And she turned back to the river dot. We stood there for a while at the railing looking at the water. "There's a cake at home," I said eventually. She looked at me. "There's a cake." "Small one." "Don't make it a thing." "I'm making it a thing," she said. "I knew you would," I said. "You got me a cake for the anniversary of the day I told you your music was too loud," she said. "I did." I said, "You're unbelievable," she said, in a voice that meant the opposite. "Come on," I said, and turned away from the river. "It has cream cheese frosting." "That's manipulative," she said, and follow me. The apartment is warm in the mornings now in October. She has added a blanket to the window seat, impractical, she said, as she was putting it there. "It's just going to get in the way," and it is not in the way, it is exactly where it should be. And sometimes in the evening when the light is going, she curls into the window seat with the blanket and reads. And I'm at my desk or on the couch, and the apartment has the particular quality of inhabited warmth that belongs to spaces where people have been. For long enough themselves, I look at it sometimes. The space. the plants on the windowsills, her books filling the left side of the third shelf and now also parts of two other shelves, the very specific coffee setup on the kitchen counter, the jacket she always leaves on the chair by the door, the notes she makes on actual paper and then loses. And I find them in various corners and pockets of the apartment weeks later. Fragments of sentences that are either from the next project or from a dream. Impossible to tell. I look at all of this and I think, I built this. We built this. Out of a Wednesday morning and 2 coffees and someone telling me my music was too loud out of fear and patience and the decision made and remade to show up. Out of her deciding against the odds of her own caution to trust something. Out of me deciding against the steadiness of my careful solitude to want something. That is the whole magic of it. That it is not magic at all. That it is just 2 people and time and the willingness to keep choosing each other even when it is not easy. Which is the only definition of love that holds up when you look at it closely. This morning, after I made the coffee, she came out of the bedroom in her socks. Which are always mismatched, not artfully, not as a statement. Just because she doesn't consider it a problem worth solving. And she came into the kitchen and looked at the coffee I had made and she said nothing. She just picked up her cup and took a sip and looked out the window at the gold October trees. Then she looked at me. "Good morning," she said. "Good morning," I said. That was it. That was the whole thing. It was everything.